Hey y'all, it's Kim. So if there is no client list for Jeffrey Epstein, the why was Ghislane Maxwell and him both put into jail? Just saying. This is from the DOJ's website. I'll put the link in the description. That way you can go and read it if you want to do it that way. I'm just going through these documents because I don't think this information needs to die. I know Jeffrey Epstein's gone. He'll never get justice here, but we need justice for those kids, and I don't understand how they could have dropped the ball this much. I still support Trump, and I think he needs to handle his business internally. But I'm just putting this stuff out here because I don't think it needs to go anywhere. I think people need to be held accountable. That's what we've always had until just like recently, for whatever reason, people get away with stuff. But anyway, I guess if you're rich and powerful and you can buy children and transport children, then you can get away with anything. But anyway, so there's United States District Court, Southern District of New York. And remember, Ghislane is still in jail, so let that sink in. Okay, United States of America versus Ghislane Maxwell, defendant. This is a sealed indictment. Obviously, it's been unsealed. I think I saw somewhere where they said that it wasn't going to be unsealed because of the graphic nature of it. So hang on to your shorts, hang on to your seats. I'm not trying to be gross, but I mean, we got to go through this. There may be certain words I won't use if it's too graphic, but we'll just see what this says. I haven't read it yet. I'm just going by what I saw on some website. It might have been the DOJ. That's why they had it sealed. But anyway, 20 CR 330, count one, conspiracy to entice minors to travel to engage in illegal sex acts. The grand jury charges. Overview. The charges set forth herein stem from the role of Ghislane Maxwell, the defendant in the sexual exploitation and abuse of multiple minor girls by Jeffrey Epstein. In particular, from at least in or about 1994 up to including at least in or about 1997, Maxwell assisted, facilitated, and contributed to Jeffrey Epstein's abuse of minor girls by, among other things, helping Epstein to recruit, groom, and ultimately abuse victims known to Maxwell and Epstein to be under the age of 18. The victims were as young as 14 years old when they were groomed and abused by Maxwell and Epstein, both of whom knew that certain victims were in fact under the age of 18. As a part in furtherance of their scheme to abuse minor victims, Ghislane Maxwell, the defendant, and Jeffrey Epstein enticed and caused minor victims to travel to Epstein's residence in different states, which Maxwell knew and intended would result in their grooming for and subjection to sexual abuse. Moreover, in an effort to conceal her crimes, Maxwell repeatedly lied when questioned about her conduct, including in relation to some of the minor victims described herein when providing testimony under oath in 2016. Factual background. During the time periods charged in this indictment, Ghislane Maxwell, the defendant, had a personal and professional relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and was among his closest associates. In particular, between in or about 1994 or in or about 1997, Maxwell was in an intimate relationship with Epstein and also was paid by Epstein to manage his various properties. Over the course of their relationship, Maxwell and Epstein were photographed together on multiple occasions, including the below image. Beginning in at least 1994, Ghislane Maxwell, the defendant, enticed and groomed multiple minor girls to engage in sex acts with Jeffrey Epstein through a variety of means and methods, including but not limited to the following. Maxwell first attempted to befriend some of Epstein's minor victims prior to their abuse, including by asking the victims about their lives, their schools, and their families. Maxwell and Epstein would spend time building friendships with minor victims by, for example, taking minor victims to the movies or shopping. Some of these outings would involve Maxwell and Epstein spending time together with the minor victim while some would involve Maxwell or Epstein spending time alone with the minor victim. Having developed a rapport with the victim, Maxwell would try to normalize sexual abuse for a minor victim by, among other things, discussing sexual topics, undressing in front of the victim, being present when a minor victim was undressed, and or being present for sex acts involving the minor victim and Epstein. Maxwell's presence during minor victims' interactions with Epstein, including interactions where the minor victim was undressed or that involved sex acts with Epstein, helped put the victims at ease because an adult woman was present. For example, in some instances, Maxwell would massage Epstein in front of minor victims. In other instances, Maxwell encouraged minor victims to provide massages to Epstein, including sexualized massages, during which a minor victim will be fully or partially nude. Many of those massages resulted in Epstein sexually abusing the minor victims. In addition, Epstein offered to help some minor victims by paying for travel and/or educational opportunities, and Maxwell encouraged certain victims to accept Epstein's assistance. As a result, victims were made to feel indebted and believe that Maxwell and Epstein were trying to help them. This is kind of sick. Okay, through this process, Maxwell and Epstein enticed victims to engage in sexual activity with Epstein. In some instances, Maxwell was present for and participated in the sexual abuse of minor victims. Some such incidents occurred in the context of massages, which developed into sexual encounters. Ghislane Maxwell, the defendant, facilitated Jeffrey Epstein's access to minor victims, knowing that he had a sexual preference for underage girls and that he intended to engage in sexual activity with those victims. Epstein's resulting abuse of minor victims included, among other things, touching a victim's breasts, touching a victim's genitals, placing a toy such as a vibrator on a victim's genitals, directing a victim to touch Epstein while he masturbated, and directing a victim to touch Epstein's genitals. Maxwell and Epstein's victims. Ugh. Between approximately in or about 1994 and in or about 1997, Ghislane Maxwell, the defendant, facilitated Jeffrey Epstein's access to minor victims by, among other things, inducing and enticing and aiding and abetting the inducement and enticement of multiple minor victims. Victims were groomed and or abused at multiple locations, including the following: a multi-story private residence on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, New York, owned by Epstein, the New York residence, which is depicted in the following photograph. I think this is the one that said like have 40 rooms or something. An estate in Palm Beach, Florida, owned by Epstein, the Palm Beach residence, which is depicted in the following photograph. I've seen that one on, I've seen all of these. I think it was a 2020 episode or like Dateline or something. A ranch in Santa Fe, New Mexico, owned by Epstein. The New Mexico residence, which is depicted in the following photograph. Looks like a compound or something. And then Maxwell's personal residence in London, England. Among the victims included or induced or enticed by Ghislane Maxwell, the defendant, were minor victims identified herein as minor victim 1, minor victim 2, and minor victim 3. In particular, and during time periods relevant to this indictment, Maxwell engaged in the following acts, among others, with respect to minor victims. Maxwell met minor victim 1 when MV1 was approximately 14 years old. Maxwell subsequently interacted with minor victim 1 on multiple occasions at Epstein's residences, knowing that MV1 was under the age of 18 at the time. During these interactions, which took place between approximately 1994 and 1997, Maxwell groomed minor victim 1 to engage in sexual acts with Epstein through multiple means. First, Maxwell and Epstein attempted to befriend MV1 taking her to the movies and on shopping trips. Maxwell also asked MV1 about school, her classes, her family, and other aspects of her life. Maxwell then sought to normalize inappropriate and abusive conduct by, among other things, undressing in front of MV1 and being present when MV1 undressed in front of Epstein. Within the first year after Maxwell and Epstein met MV1, Epstein began sexually abusing MV1. Maxwell was present for and involved in some of this abuse. I wonder if it's that Virginia Giuffre. I know she was in there somewhere, but anyway, let's just go on. In particular, Maxwell involved MV1 in group sexualized massages of Epstein. During those group sexualized massages, Maxwell and or MV1 would engage in sex acts with Epstein. Epstein and Maxwell both encouraged MV1 to travel to Epstein's residences in both New York and Florida. As a result, MV1 was sexually abused by Epstein in both New York and Florida. MV1 was enticed to travel across state lines for the purpose of sexual encounters with Epstein, and Maxwell was aware that Epstein engaged in sexual activity with MV1. Let's see. After MV1 traveled to Epstein's properties, including in the context of sexualized massage. Maxwell interacted with MV2 on at least one occasion in or about 1996 at Epstein's residence in New Mexico when minor MV2, whatever, was under the age of 18. MV2 had flown into New Mexico from out of state at Epstein's invitation for the purpose of being groomed for and or subjected to acts of sexual abuse. Maxwell knew that MV2 was under the age of 18 at this time. While in New Mexico, Maxwell and Epstein took minor victim 2 to a movie, and Maxwell took MV2 shopping. Maxwell also discussed minor victim 2 school, classes, and family with MV2. In New Mexico, Maxwell began her efforts to groom MV2 for abuse by Epstein by, among other things, providing an unsolicited massage to MV2, during which MV2 was topless. Maxwell also encouraged MV2 to massage Epstein. Maxwell groomed and befriended MV3 in London, England, between approximately 1994 and 1995, including during a period of time in which Maxwell knew that MV3 was under the age of 18. Among other things, Maxwell discussed MV3's life and family with MV3. Maxwell introduced MV3 to Epstein and arranged for multiple interactions between MV3 and Epstein. During those interactions, Maxwell encouraged MV3 to massage Epstein, knowing that Epstein would engage in sex acts with MV3 during those massages. MV3 provided Epstein with the requested massages, and during those massages, Epstein sexually abused minor victim 3. Maxwell was aware that Epstein engaged in sexual activity with MV3 on multiple occasions, including at times when MV3 was under the age of 18, including in the context of sexual massages. These people are sick. Maxwell's efforts to conceal her conduct in or around 2016 in the context of a deposition as part of a civil litigation. Ghislane Maxwell, the defendant, repeatedly provided false and perjurious, I can't say the word, statements under oath regarding, among other subjects, her role in facilitating the abuse of minor victims by Jeffrey Epstein, including some of the specific events and acts of abuse detailed above. Statutory allegations. From at least in or about 1994 up to and including in or about 1997 in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Ghislane Maxwell, the defendant, Jeffrey Epstein, and others known and unknown willingly and knowingly did combine, conspire, confederate, and agree together and with each other to commit an offense against the United States, to wit, enticement in violation of Title 18, United States Code, Section 2422. It was a part and object of the conspiracy that Ghislane Maxwell, the defendant, Jeffrey Epstein, and others known and unknown would and did knowingly persuade, induce, entice, and coerce one or more individuals to travel in interstate and foreign commerce to engage in sexual activity for which a person can be charged with criminal offense in violation of Title 18, United States Code, Section 2422, overt acts in furtherance of the conspiracy and to effect the illegal object thereof. The following overt acts, among others, were committed in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere. Between in or about 1994 and in or about 1997, when minor victim 1 was under the age of 18, Maxwell participated in multiple group sexual encounters with Epstein and MV1 in New York and Florida. In or about 1996, when MV1 was under the age of 18, MV1 was enticed to travel from Florida to New York for purposes of sexually abusing her at the New York residence in violation of New York Penal Law, Section 130.455. In or about 1996, when MV2 was under the age of 18, Maxwell provided MV2 with an unsolicited massage in New Mexico, during which minor victim 2 was topless. Between in or about 1994 and in or about 1995, when MV3 was under the age of 18, Maxwell encouraged MV3 to provide massages to Epstein in London, England, knowing that Epstein intended to sexually abuse MV3 during those massages. Title 18, United States Code, Section 371. Count 2, enticement of a minor to travel to engage in illegal sex acts. The grand jury further charges the allegations contained in paragraphs 1 through 8 of this indictment are repeated and realleged as if fully set forth within. From at least in or about 1994 up to and including in or about 1997, in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Ghislane Maxwell, the defendant, knowingly did persuade, induce, entice, and coerce an individual to travel in interstate and foreign commerce to engage in sexual activity for which a person can be charged with the criminal offense, and attempted to do the same and aided and abetted the same. To wit, Maxwell persuaded, induced, enticed, and coerced minor victim 1 to travel from Florida to New York on multiple occasions with the intention that MV1 would engage in one or more sex acts with Jeffrey Epstein in violation of New York Penal Law, Section 130.55, Title 18, United States Code, Sections 24.2 and 2. Count 3, conspiracy to transport minors with intent to engage in criminal sexual activity. The grand jury further charges the allegations contained in paragraphs 1 through 8 of this indictment were repeated and realleged as if fully set forth within. From at least in or about 1994 up to and including in or about 1997, in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Ghislane Maxwell, the defendant, Jeffrey Epstein, and others known and unknown, willfully and knowingly did combine, conspire, confederate, and agree together and with each other to commit an offense against the United States, to wit, transportation of minors in violation of Title 18, United States Code, Section 2423A. It was a part and object of the conspiracy that Ghislane Maxwell, the defendant, Jeffrey Epstein, and others known and unknown would and did knowingly transport an individual who had not attained the age of 18 in interstate and foreign commerce, with the intent that the individual engage in sexual activity for which a person can be charged with a criminal offense in violation of Title 18 United States Code 2423A. Overt acts in furtherance of the conspiracy and to effect the illegal object thereof. The following overt acts, among others, were committed in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere. Between in or about 1994 and in or about 1997, when MV1 was under the age of 18, Maxwell participated in multiple group sexual encounters with Epstein and minor victim 1 in New York and Florida. In or about 1996, when MV1 was under the age of 18, MV1 was enticed to travel from Florida to New York for purposes of sexually abusing her at the New York residence in violation of New York Penal Law, Section 130.55. In or about 1996, when MV2 was under the age of 18, Maxwell provided MV2 with an unsolicited massage in New Mexico, during which MV2 was topless. Between in or about 1994 and in or about 1995, when minor victim 3 was under the age of 18, Maxwell encouraged minor victim 3 to provide massages to Epstein in London, England, knowing that Epstein intended to sexually abuse MV3 during those massages. Title 18 United States Code, Section 371. Count 4, transportation of a minor with intent to engage in criminal sexual activity. The grand jury further charges the allegations contained in paragraphs 1 through 8 of this indictment are repeated and realleged as fully set forth within. From at least in or about 1994 up to and including in or about 1997 in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Ghislane Maxwell, the defendant, knowingly did transport an individual who had not attained the age of 18 in interstate and foreign commerce with the intent that the individual engage in sexual activity for which a person can be charged with the criminal offense and attempt to do so, and aided and abetted the same. To wit, Maxwell arranged for minor victim 1 to be transported from Florida to New York on multiple occasions with the intention that MV1 would engage in one or more sex acts with Jeffrey Epstein in violation of New York Penal Law, Section 130.55. Section 18, United States Code, Sections 2423A and 2. Count 5, perjury. The grand jury further charges the allegations contained in paragraphs 1 through 8 of this indictment are repeated and realleged as if fully set forth within. On or about April 22nd, 2016, in the Southern District of New York, Ghislane Maxwell, the defendant, having taken an oath to testify truthfully in a deposition in connection with the case then pending before the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York under docket number 15 CIV 7344, knowingly made false material declarations. To wit, Maxwell gave the following underlined false testimony. Did Jeffrey Epstein have a scheme to recruit underage girls for sexual massages? If you know, I don't know what you're talking about. List all the people under the age of 18 that you interacted with at any of Jeffrey's properties. I'm not aware of anybody that I interacted with other than previously the plaintiff, who is 17 at this point. Title 18, United States Code, Section 1623, Count 6, perjury. The grand jury further charges allegations contained in paragraphs 1 through 8 of this indictment are repeated and are realleged as if fully set forth within. On or about July 22nd, 2016, in the Southern District of New York, Ghislane Maxwell, the defendant, having taken an oath to testify truthfully in a deposition in connection with the case then pending before the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York under docket number 15 CIV 7344, knowingly made false material declarations, to wit, Maxwell gave the following underlined false testimony. Were you aware of the presence of sex toys or devices used in sexual activities in Mr. Epstein's Palm Beach house? No, not that I recall. Do you know whether Mr. Epstein possessed sex toys or devices used in sexual activities? No. Other than yourself and the blonde and brunette that you have identified as having been involved in three-way sexual activities, with whom did Mr. Epstein have sexual activities? I wasn't aware that he was having sexual activities with anyone when I was with him other than myself. I want to be sure that I'm clear. Is it your testimony that in the 1990s and 2000s, you were not aware that Mr. Epstein was having sexual activities with anyone other than yourself and the blonde and brunette on those few occasions when they were involved with you? That is my testimony. That is correct. Is it your testimony that you've never given anybody a massage? I've not given anyone a massage. You never gave Mr. Epstein a massage. Is that your testimony? That is my testimony. You never gave MV2 a massage. Is your testimony? I never gave MV2 a massage. Title 18, United States Code, Section 1623, the foreperson, Audrey Strauss, acting United States Attorney, and then form number USA, United States District Courts, and then basically that's it. Anyway, talk to y'all later. I'm going to see if I can get some more stuff pulled up about this because we don't need to let it go. Anyway, talk to you later. Bye.